It's 60 quintillion damaged molecules in a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged. Now, so you've underestimated the damage that you're taking in when you eat those oils. And I'm talking to you and everybody else who's listening and everybody else who's not listening too, right? You are underestimating what you're doing to yourself, the toxicity you're putting into your body by a quadrillion times. A quadrillion is a really large number. So then I say, listen, you're going to fly home for the holidays and you go to the airport and you got your boarding pass and you're about to board the plane and somebody taps you on the shoulder and this is Mr. Truth Teller. You know that this person only ever tells the truth. He says, by the way, did you know that your chance of crashing and dying on your flight home was quadrillion times higher than you thought it was when you get on the airplane?
Welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel, and on this show we explore the survivor's journey, practitioners making a difference, and the therapeutic treatments and transformational technology that allow the body to heal itself. Witness the inspiration we gain by navigating the human experience with grace, humility, and a healthy dose of mistakes. Because part of being human is being beautifully broken. Ladies and gentlemen, you ready to drop on into the pod? We have Udo Erasmus, who is on fire today. Spirited conversation. We're going to talk about the critical balance of omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids and their essential role as an essential nutrient. Which one is not. It may surprise you today. Udo is a wealth of knowledge, and one of his statements that he made is that health was invented by life is a way to live adapted with nature. And that resonated with me so much. I can't wait to drop on in. Before we do, I want to organically mention my sponsors because without them, the show wouldn't happen. And not only are they supporters of the show, but they're products that I use in my everyday life. And number one is Silver Biotics. And the thing I want to talk about today is a product called their anti-aging serum. And for me, aging, it's not about avoiding death. It's about working with the quality of life that we're given and supporting my body so I can look good and feel good at my best age. And that's why I love this anti-aging serum. It hydrates the face deeply. It targets fine lines and wrinkles because I want to look good on camera without disturbing the good bacteria that keep your microbiome thriving in the skin. It really does work with this element of nature. And I would just keep reinforcing that this silver sol technology that is at the core of every product Silver Biotics has, whether it's the muscle cream or the anti-aging serum, it's offering these antimicrobial benefits that work with your skin and not against it. So it's part of my daily routine that I've just started doing. I just busted this one out of my cabinet new. And it's really the ethos of the company is this whole body health. It's using silver to really create that true long-lasting glow, both internally from your immune function and externally from how our skin presents. The other person that I want to mention in this is just the company StemRegen. So StemRegen creates a supplement to boost my internal supply of stem cells that already exist within my body. So they're boosting those by millions of cells for every 2 to 3 pills I take at the end of the day. And one way I've started to incorporate this actually is not for me, but for the puppy in my home, Mr. Higgs, as he is almost 15 years old. And I sprinkle 1 capsule in his food a day. This is my health hack for him, but there's pep in his step. His bowel movements are better and he's more sprightly. So I see it when I really hit it hard in the gym, but I see it in him in his running and his jumping. And it's a product I continue to stand by. Both StemRegen and Silver Biotics, you can use code Beautifully Broken at all times for a discount that is unique to our audience. So I hope you check those out. And without any further ado, let us drop into the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Beautifully Broken podcast. I am sitting down with my new friend, Udo. Welcome to the show, Udo.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Now, I will tell you, I learned about you and some of the products that you do a long, long time ago. I want to say it was like 2009. And I was working in a production of West Side Story, very physical show. The dancing is crazy.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
I was a jet.
I remember West Side Story. Oh, when you're a jet all the way from to your last dying day.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, I should know that. First living breath to your last dying day.
Live it, yeah.
And so there was a dancer in the production, and I was like, man, this is killing me. I'm so achy and sore. And he's like, I do this blend of special oils that's called Udo's Choice. And I know this might sound out there, but there's some scientific research done with some type of a rowing team in which it really helps flexibility and joints and tendons. And he was definitely referring to your product. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yep. And the benefits you got are predictable.
Fascinating. If we bumped into each other on the street, what would you tell me that you do for a living? What do you do? I work in health. You work in health? Yeah, because oil is one thing I focused on for many years. But health is a lot more. Because I went from oils, then I got into digestion, because digestion is the second most neglected area, because digestion is a huge undertaking. It's like there are a jellyfish. They have no brain at all, but they have a really good digestive system. They've been around for 250 million years. You don't need a brain. You need a really good digestive system. So then I got into digestion. Then I got into greens, because greens is the foundation of everything. And then the next thing was, well, what else affects health? And the answer came back, well, everything affects health. Oh my God. So then I got into nature and human nature, because health was invented by life as a way to live adapted to nature. That's where health comes from. It wasn't invented by the lawyers or the medical profession or the government, right? It was invented in nature by life. And if you want to know what health is, then everything affects health. So you're talking on the awareness level, on the energy level, on the visionary level, which is the positive mind, on the body level, on the protective level, which is the survival mind, on the social level, on the environmental level, and on the cosmic level. And each one of them has a different nature and a different function, needs a different kind of attention on a regular basis, goes off in a different ways, and responds to a different kind of intervention. You want to be totally healthy, you need to give all of those their due. Yeah. And this is not something we're taught or educated on growing up in life. We get home ec, we get algebra still at like 25 years out of high school. I've never used my algebra at all. Oh, what's wrong with you? But what I'm hearing you say is there's like all these principles to health. There's almost like this human operating manual. Principles and components. Yeah. And you got to follow the principles, and you got to bring in the components. Yeah. We know more about how to make a watch than we know about how the human body works. Yeah. Is that weird? We know more about gossip, from gossip about our neighbors than we know about ourselves. Because you know why? Because if you want to get to know yourself, you have to spend time with yourself. Who spends time with themselves? You got to sit down, get quiet, shut up, observe what is in the space your body occupies. Some people call it meditation or self-knowledge or stillness practice or something. But how are you going to get to know what's in here if you never pay attention, if you never focus in here? And all the wise teachers over the ages have all said the same thing. What is it? Kingdom of heaven's within you. There's a hint. There's a serious hint. Kingdom of heaven, where God lives, where all the, whatever that is within you. And then the second one, seek first the kingdom. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't do that. We do it last. We only go there when we get so fried that we can't think of any other options. They said, do that first, and then everything else will fall into place. And, of course, I didn't do it first either. I was 30 when I started to do the inner practice. And indeed, everything's fallen into place. Yeah. Because you get such clarity. You have such a foundation in peace, in unconditional love. That's your nature. In inspiration, in wisdom, in insight. That living in a world of change is not that difficult because your foundation is solid. Yeah. If you don't have that solid foundation, you're living without foundation. And then you get the world we're living in, where anything goes. Yeah, there's so many of us that it's the time that we have these life-altering accidents or the onset of a terrible illness. We are driven inside to examine and look at these things. Well, what is this body? How does it function? What is digestion, and why is it important? Is it more important what I eat or what I digest and what I break down and assimilate into fuel?
Yeah, or what I think.
Right? Those are big questions.
Yeah.
I want to go all the way back to oil, because right now oil within the world of the interweb is a very triggering subject. We're looking
no kidding.
I know, and especially seed oils. This is the thing where I have an app on my phone where it's called Seed Oil Scout, and it's looking for factory processed oils used in specific restaurants and where you may want to avoid some of these establishments because there's a healthier alternative. Maybe it's beef tallow, maybe it's an extra virgin olive oil, but a very confusing topic. And wherever you go online, you're going to get a different opinion. You're someone with a body of work for a large portion of your life who's researched and studies oil. So could you give us a little education on that topic from your experience?
Yeah. Okay. So what people are saying is don't use seed oils and don't use omega-6s. And everyone who says that, and by the way, this has been going on for over 40 years because there's always been a detractor in all that time. I started working with oils in 1981 after I got poisoned by pesticides. So I've had my head steeped in the oils for a very long time. And here's what happened to me. Omega-6 is an essential nutrient. That's what I read in the research, right? And essential, when you talk about nutrients, means it's something you have to live and be healthy. You can't make it from anything else in your own body. And because you have to have it, but you can't make it, you've got to bring it in from outside. Food or supplement, right? Number one. Number two, if you don't get enough, you cannot stay healthy. Your health will deteriorate. You will get deficiency symptoms. Those deficiency symptoms are degenerative in nature, which just means your body's falling apart. And those symptoms will get worse with time. And if you don't get enough long enough, you die. That's how important these particular building blocks are. You can't make them, but you have to have them, and you'll die if you don't get them. Okay? So that's the second part. The third part is the good news. If you're deteriorating because you're not getting enough of an essential nutrient, but before you die, because by definition, death is not reversible. Okay? So before you die, you bring enough of that missing essential nutrient back into your diet, then all the problems that come from not getting enough are reversed, and you get your health back, because life knows what to do with those building blocks, provided you take responsibility here at your mouth to make sure they land in your body so life can do its job in creating, maintaining, repairing, running your body. Okay? And the fourth part of it is you're not allowed to call a nutrient essential until researchers have identified at least one biochemical reaction in the body that requires that nutrient. And without that nutrient, that vital biochemical reaction cannot take place. That's the definition of an essential nutrient. So I knew that. And, what is this? This is like 18 minerals, 13 vitamins, 9 essential amino acids from proteins, and 2 essential fatty acids, omega-3 and omega-6, from oils, right? 42 essential nutrients. You got to have them all. And if you want optimum health, you need them all in optimum quantities. Minimum health is probably not a goal to shoot for, right? So I read this and says omega-6 is an essential nutrient. And the very next study said omega-6 gives you cancer and kills you. And my head exploded. Because it was like, wait, I have to eat it so that it can kill me? You know what? How's that supposed to work? Right? And I said, there must be something I'm missing. You can't have it both ways. It doesn't make sense that something essential to your health would give you cancer and kill you. And it was that conflict, that contradiction, drove me nuts. I guess I have some strong OCD genes. And it made me look deeper. It said, I must be missing something here. Why would that be true? And why would that also be true? And it was that contradiction that made me look into how oils are made and the damage done to oils by industry as well as by us in the frying pan. And so then what I then found out was, okay, well, in order to make an oil, first of all, oils are the most sensitive of our nutrients. Omega-3 and omega-6 are both very sensitive to damage done by light, by oxygen, and by heat. So we need to protect those more than any other nutrient. They need protection from light, oxygen, and heat. Not only that, but omega-3, which was only established as essential in 1981, the year after I got poisoned, where it had been known for omega-6 since 1929 and confirmed in 1968. Omega-3 is 5 times more sensitive to damage done by light, oxygen, and heat than omega-6. So it's a nightmare to work with. But I also found out omega-3 is too low for optimum health in 99% of the population. And every cell requires both omega-3 and omega-6, and they compete in the body for enzyme space. So if you get too much of one, and if you don't get the ratio right, you get too much of one, it'll crowd out the other, or you get too much of the other, it'll crowd out the one. So you need to look at the ratio of them as well. And at that point, I said, okay, well, I've been poisoned by pesticides. I don't think so in the process of doing that, the oil is 0.5 to 1% damaged. It's treated with Drano, sodium hydroxide, very corrosive base, then with a very corrosive acid called phosphoric acid. Then it's bleached with bleaching clays, which makes it rancid. And then it has to be heated to frying temperature for half an hour to blow off the rancid molecules. And so I thought, well, 1%, damage, that's maybe not a good idea. So I called the Oil Chemist Society. They're the umbrella organization for the huge oil industry. I said, I want to talk to a researcher. So they put him on the line, and I said, so I have a question for you. You know that the way you treat the oils does damage to them. Why do you do that? And he said to me very cockily, he says, because we can get rid of half of the pesticides in the oil. And in my head, there's like a little explosion. It says, oh, I didn't even know there were pesticides in oils at that point, right? But I didn't say anything. So I said, I didn't say that to him. I said to him, why don't you start with organically grown seeds? Then you don't have a pesticide poison problem. Silence at the other end of the phone. And I don't know, it might have been 3 seconds, but it seemed like 3 hours. So I'm waiting, said nothing. And then when he came back, he was really angry. So I don't know what your problem is. The oil is only 1% damaged and it's 99% good. And if you got 99% in an exam, you'd be damn happy, wouldn't you? So now I'm thinking, well, maybe I'm overreacting. It is only 1%. So now we had a saying in university, when in doubt, do the math. You know that saying? When in doubt, do the math. So I said, okay, if I have a tablespoon of an oil that is 1% damaged by the processing, how many damaged molecules are going to be in that oil? And I want you to guess because you have no basis for doing it, just like everybody else who's going to listen to this. And you'll see. So how many, what do you think? In a tablespoon, you know how big a tablespoon is?
I do, yeah. Is it 5 grams?
It's 14 grams.
14 grams in a tablespoon.
Yeah, 14 grams. And it's 1% damaged. So how many damaged molecules do you think would be?
Oh, goodness. I have no idea.
There's a way to, if you have science background, there's a way to calculate it. But I want you to guess because you don't have the background, and that's exactly my point.
I'm going to say how many molecules?
Yeah, how many molecules?
I mean, if I knew how many molecules made up a gram, I'd have a shooting chance.
I know, but that's the point. But everybody who's listening to this is in the same boat.
I'm going to say 100,000 molecules.
Okay, 100,000. 100,000 has 5 zeros, right?
Yep.
Would you like to know what the actual number is?
Tell us.
Your number is a 6 followed by 14 zeros too low. 14 zeros is 1,000, million, billion, trillion, quadrillion. It's 60 quintillion damaged molecules in a tablespoon of oil that is 1% damaged. Now, so you've underestimated the damage that you're taking in when you eat those oils. And I'm talking to you and everybody else who's listening and everybody else who's not listening too, right? You are underestimating what you're doing to yourself, the toxicity you're putting into your body by a quadrillion times. Quadrillion is a really large number. So then I say, listen, you're going to fly home for the holidays, and you go to the airport and you got your boarding pass and you're about to board the plane, and somebody taps you on the shoulder, and it's this Mr. Truth Teller. You know that this person only ever tells the truth. He says, by the way, did you know that your chance of crashing and dying on your flight home was quadrillion times higher than you thought it was? Would you get on the airplane?
Absolutely not.
And I was in Ireland. I said I would canoe back to Canada.
Yeah. I still want to not get on the airplane.
No, I understand. But my point is that we're doing this every day, and we're not doing 1 tablespoon. It's generally 2 to 4 tablespoons.
Yeah.
And then not only that, we're frying those tablespoons of oil. So you have to multiply that number by another 3 to 6 times. And there's pesticides in those oils, and they're in plastic bottles. So the plastic leaches into the oil. And then you do that for 30 years every day. So you got to multiply that number by 11,000. That's about the number of days in 30 years. And then you start thinking about, this is what I am deliberately, not knowingly, but deliberately doing to myself every day. And then you get, maybe after 20 years, you get cancer. So I don't know why I got cancer. I always ate good. Because you didn't know, because nobody ever told you. Right?
Yeah.
And so when I found that out, it was like, oh my God, I cannot get healthy on oils damaged like this. We should make oils with health in mind. And so I developed a method in which I grew up on a farm, so we know how to tinker with stuff, right?
Where was your farm that you grew up on?
I grew up on many farms in British Columbia, but even in Europe. When I was born during the Second World War, and we lived in Germany for a while. We lived on farms. So, and all kinds of different farms, mixed farms and dairy farms and fruit farms and all kinds of stuff. Anyway, so I have a farm boy mentality to some extent. So what do you do? What do you do if you know what the issue is? You need to make a method where the oil, from the time it's protected in the seed by nature's packaging, that packaging is really good, while it's being pressed, filtered, settled, and filled into brown glass bottles, and then a box are put around it and put in the fridge. No light, no oxygen, and only low temperature. Get in touch with the oil. And it has to be a very, very tight system. In fact, I've had people try to copy the system, and when I saw what they did, is like their oil tasted awful, because they deteriorate easily from light and oxygen, because their system of making them was too sloppy. So it has to be a super tight system, right? Yeah. Now, if you have nature's packaging, there are flax seeds that were 5,000 years old, found in caves in Switzerland. And when they pulled out those seeds, they planted them and they grew. That's how good nature's packaging can be, right?
Yeah.
And then we started making flaxseed oil because that's the richest oil in omega-3. And omega-3 is too low in 99% of the population. And that came out in 1986. And the people I worked with started saying it's the best source of both essential fatty acids. I thought it was only the best source of omega-3 because it doesn't have much omega-6 in it. It's 4 times more omega-3 than omega-6. But I couldn't prove it, so I did an experiment. I used only flax oil as my source of oil in the diet. And within 3 months, I had dry eyes, skipped heartbeats, arthritis-like pain in finger joints, and thin, papery skin. Those are classic omega-6 deficiency symptoms. Fixed them by eating sunflower seeds, which only have omega-6s and no omega-3s. So brought the balance back, and then at that point said, you know what? We should make a blend where you cannot become omega-6 or omega-3 deficient from it. Get the balance right so both of them do their job in the body because they compete for enzyme space and they have some opposing functions. So you need to make sure that both get their due. And that's how the blend came about.
That's Udo's blend. Right? Carried at Whole Foods.
That's Udo's oil. Carried in Whole Foods and health food stores in a brown glass bottle, in a box, in the fridge, in the supplement section, in the natural food stores.
Now, as you know, companies, they rise and they get a product, and many times they're acquired, and oftentimes there's cut corners in the future. Yeah. Would you say the product today is the same product that you started out with?
Actually, better. because the company has not changed hands and has not been put into the hands of people. And I showed them how to do the job. I have a partner in the business. Mm-hmm. And what we started with 3 organic ingredients out of 9 when we started, because the other ones were not available, with the commitment that when the other ingredients became available organic, we would make the switch to organic. So they're now 8 out of 9 organic. You cannot get organic certification on vitamin E because it's an industrial product. So it's better than it was. But if the company gets sold or if I'm not involved, then I don't know. But I'm the kind of guy, like right from the beginning, we set the standards. I mean, here's the thing, if something goes wrong in your body, this is something sort of more background from that. If something goes wrong in your body, then the first thing you need to do is raise your standard for food, water, and air intake. Because your body's made out of food, water, and air. If you raise the standard, there's some evidence that 98% of the atoms in your body are removed and replaced every year. What does that mean? You raise the standard, within 1 year, you will have rebuilt 98% of your body to a higher standard. And higher standard is where health lives, right? Health is the highest, is the high standard, right? So that's, when something, and I got poisoned by pesticides. That's how I got there. And so we set standards. We want to make oils with health in mind. I'm in the Canadian Health Food Association Hall of Fame for starting that industry, right?
Beautiful.
And they acknowledged what we did. We created a new industry, oils made with health in mind. Now, when you make oils with health in mind, seed oils are good for you. And you should eat them and the seeds. Here's the thing. They say seed oils are bad for you and omega-6s are bad for you. But most of our seeds and nuts have omega-6s, more omega-6 than omega-3 in them. And when you eat seeds and nuts, that's associated with longevity. Well, what are you saying? What are you saying? The oil is poisonous, but the protein protects you? Or what are you saying? No, and longevity until the last 5 years has increased every year, starting from 1900, when the oil industry began to get bigger. We've actually increased longevity. And, where are we getting our diseases from? Well, there's only 3 ways. You're not getting enough essential nutrients. That's number 1. Number 2, you're getting too many poisons. That's number 2. That's a big one. And number 3, your digestion isn't working, so you don't get all your nutrients and you create toxicity in your own system. Those are the only 3 reasons for getting physically sick. Now, you can also get sick from thinking stupid and then, of course, acting stupid on that, right? So you can get sick for other reasons. But in terms of physical causes, too little of what you need, too much of what you shouldn't have, and poor digestion to take those things down and make them available to the body.
Yeah. I have a question for you. I'd love clarity on, and I'm not an expert in this subject, but there are times when I've read, so if you look at omega-3, right, and there is a source that could come from a flaxseed, there's a source that could come, let's say Norwegian salmon. Are those omega-3s processed within the body through the digestive pathway in the same way? I've heard there's a different conversion rate or a bioavailability between, is it ALA and an omega-3? Can you explain that for me?
Okay, let me go back to the last question, then I get to this, okay?
Of course.
So the point that I'm making in all of that, all these people who are talking about seed oils are bad and omega-6s are bad, they're half right and half wrong. They haven't done their homework. They're blaming the oils and the omega-6s for the damage that you should be blaming them on, that they should be blaming. It's the damage that causes the problems. And then studies are done with these damaged oils, but nobody in the studies talks about the damage. So they get some negative results. So then they blame it on the oil. And these guys are all people with big mouths who haven't done all their homework. Every one of those people. And not one of those people who's written books, and there probably been at least 10 books that say no seed oils, no omega-6s. Not one of those people has ever talked to me. Not one. And I've been very open. I'm obviously open to have the conversation. And then what happens is they make assumptions. They don't know their homework. And they want to be loud because that's how you get attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they mislead everybody.
Yeah.
So, okay, now I'm done with that topic. Okay. So
I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful to pull it back and just see the nuance in the topic. But as I'm hearing you speak, I'm like, of course. This is a molecule nature has given us, and nature divinely designs these elements for the body to take in and grow from. It doesn't necessarily, make them bad. Humans make them bad.
And nature and God make them pretty sensitive, so we need to take care of them.
Yeah.
They're like, lettuce is a perishable food, right?
That's correct, yeah. From my experience.
So are oils rich in essential fatty acids, and they need the same care that lettuce does. And we don't want to give them the care, and we want to cut corners, and you can't do that if health is health is sensitive to input, right? So you want to be healthy, you need to take care of it. It's precious. It's so precious, and it's sensitive, and it's vulnerable, and it's fragile. And you need to take that into account and act accordingly.
Yeah.
Right? So now fish oil and flax oil. They used to say about fish oil, 30% of the population cannot convert enough plant omega-3s into fish oil omega-3s. This is like before we started with flax oil. And that meant 70% of the population doesn't need fish oil because they can do the conversion. When we came out, the week we came out with flax oil, one of the companies, I know which company and I know which person in the company, started to say the body cannot convert flax oil into fish oil. Just like that. That became the marketing thing. And then they started to say things like, well, the only reason for plant omega-3s is because they turn into EPA and DHA in fish oil.
Right.
But you can forget about the flax oil if you eat fish oil. Okay, there are so many problems with that.
That statement.
I have never recommended fish oil because fish oil omega-3 derivatives, so EPA and A, are not essential nutrients. ALA is the essential. The plant-based omega-3 is the essential nutrient. If you get enough of that in your body, and 99% of the population doesn't, then your body can make EPA and DHA from that. Now, why would you want to do that? It's because EPA and DHA are 5 times more sensitive to damage by light, oxygen, and heat than the omega-3 plant-based, which is 5 times more sensitive than the omega-6 plant-based that is in all of those damaged oils.
Yeah.
So how much damage are you going to get in the fish oil? And how sensitive are they? Well, you can buy fish oil in little glass bottles and keep it in your fridge. You open up, you stick it in your fridge. The moment you've opened it, within days, you can smell the rancidity. That's how sensitive they are. That does not happen with Udo's oil. That does not happen with the plant-based because it's 5 times more stable.
Yeah. I was just going to share, and today I don't take fish oil because exactly what you're saying. I'll commit to a brand and then there'll be some study on, it's either been contaminated or it's got processing issues or somebody's established that it does go rancid. So I've been at a loss for a while. Yeah. And I was just, I go all over the world talking about health and tons of events and thousands of people.
Yeah.
And it's hard to nail down somebody. And I ask, and people, most of the time, they don't have a brand to tell me. They don't have a referral brand for a good quality fish oil because it moves, that target moves a lot in that space.
I get to give you a brand too. So the first thing is that the fish oils are super sensitive and they're damaged more even than the seed omega-3s. That's one issue, right? And they're treated kind of the same way that the cooking oils are treated, with the sodium hydroxide, phosphoric acid, bleached, and fried. The short version, right? The second thing is that the reason why we don't convert plant omega-3s into fish omega-3s so easily, number one, we're not getting enough starting material, because we've actually decreased our intake of omega-3 down to 1/6 of what people got in 1850. And we've doubled, tripled, quadrupled, maybe even 10 times our intake of omega-6. So, and they use the same enzyme systems in the body to unfold their derivative reactions and then to unfold the health benefits of those derivatives. Okay? And there's a whole bunch more than EPA and DHA. There's eicosanoids, they're called prostaglandins, prostacyclins, thromboxanes, leukotrienes, and they are hormone-like regulating substances that regulate cellular activity in almost all cells 24/7 on an ongoing basis from conception to death. So these are major regulators in your body. Super important. If you get too much of one, it crowds out the other. If you get too much of the other one, you crowd out the one. I've already said that, I know. But it's important. So the issue is not that the body can't convert. The issue is that we haven't given the body enough starting material to do the job. And when you get the balance right, conversion is not a problem. Nobody ever complains about omega-6 not being converted. Hey, those are the same enzymes. But we have lots of omega-6s getting converted, and they're crowding out the omega-3s. So you raise the omega-3s, and then the conversion is fine, right? So that's the second thing. So we're being told we can't convert, and it's a lie, because we can convert, we're just not getting enough starting material, okay? And that's really is the big issue. And that's what we addressed in 1986. We started with flax oil that was too rich, and then we had the other inhibition problem. And so we said, okay, no, we need to make a balance and get the ratio right. We have twice as much omega-3s, omega-6, and we tell people to stop using damaged omega-6s because the omega-6s also need to be made with health in mind. So in the blend, you get omega-6s also made with health in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you've done some, because you can look at the science and the data and look at the conversion ratios, but you've seen tests and trials and what happens in the human body. So what's been your experience? Have you looked at people's blood work or labs or functionality when they start using something like an Udo's blend?
What we did was we did a couple of studies, one with strength athletes and one with a mixture of athletes. One was done internationally, the other one was done in Denmark. And what we found out is that if people who were not paying attention to oils, athletes particularly, not paying attention to oils, because at that time when we did it, nobody was paying much attention. So what we did is we gave them a tablespoon per 50 pounds of body weight per day of Udo's oil, mixed in food intake spread out over the course of the day. And there's reasons for doing all that. And within 30 days, their increase in stamina, if they did their sport to exhaustion, went up by 40 to 60% on average. We had 50-year-old bodybuilders go back to the workouts they did in their 30s. We had a person who was running who went from 90 to 146 kilometers. And it was always do the sport to exhaustion, because that's how you get the best measurement, 40 to 60%. And what we did is we put them on the oil and measured the increase in performance. And then we took them off the oil for 6 weeks to wash it out, watch their performance go down, put them back on for 8 weeks, watch their performance go up. We wanted to take them down one more time, and they wouldn't work with us anymore, because I said, I'm not losing that energy.
No, why
anymore.
would you want to feel like that?
Yeah, exactly. So that was the study. So we did it properly. And then on top of that, they said they slept better. Their skin was nicer. That's true. When omega-3 and 6 in the right ratio make it to your skin, that's how we measure optimum intake. Your skin becomes soft, smooth, and velvety, and you don't need gunk on the outside. If your skin is dry, you need more of the right kind of oil. And then their injuries healed in a third to half the time. They recovered in about half the time, because omega-3s increase oxygen metabolism, metabolic rate, and thermogenesis. And so they increase anything that needs energy works better when you have more energy, right? The hormones work more effectively at the cell receptor level. The super important in pregnancy, because the brain is very high in omega-3 and omega-6 derivatives. And if a woman doesn't get enough oil in her diet, enough omega-3 and 6 in her diet, then the child will take it from her brain, and she will lose brain fats, brain essential fatty acid derivatives. With each child will deplete her further. each child will get less than the previous child. And the researchers think that's why oldest kids on average have the highest IQ. There are other factors, so it's not always true. But on average, and the youngest children have on average the lowest IQ, right? But there are other factors. I'm a youngest child, and I claim to be smarter than my sibs. They're not here.
Well, I get to. I'm the oldest, so I can go back to my brother and sister now and just let them know.
This goes nah, 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 nah.
I drained mom's gray matter.
I took all your brain fats away. Yeah. And then it's also why women get 2 to 15 times more depression, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, collagen, and inflammatory diseases. And the research think it's the depletion of essential fats during pregnancy that sets them up for those conditions. So their suggestion is make sure you get both essential fatty acids in your diet in adequate amounts, both for your own health and the health of your children.
Yeah.
That's huge. It's
huge.
Then they make your bones stronger. They also transport minerals around the body. You build muscle faster. You hang on to it longer when you stop working out. Oh, they decrease all of the major risk factors for cardiovascular disease.
Yeah.
If they're not damaged. If they're damaged, they probably raise some of those factors.
Yeah, I'd love your insight. You know, in the world of chronic illness, which we talk a lot about on this podcast, one of the treatments that spans many of these different labels, really doesn't matter what you have, is the use of phosphatidylcholine or the different lipids. They'll do either an IV infusion or they'll do a home dosing of this. And many times they'll find that the membrane becomes damaged, especially with black mold exposure, Lyme disease. And then you'll find this happening. You find the body does not want to lean forward into this new homeostatic balance of chronic wellness because we are missing some of these fats. And I just wonder do you know where does a phosphatidylcholine, is that sourced from a flaxseed or no?
No, it depends. You can make those. You can make them in the lab. But the issue of it is, what is your phosphatidylcholine? What are the fatty acids in it? Like a triglyceride, which is the usual fats and oils that we eat. It's got 3 fatty acids on a glycerol molecule. The phosphatidylcholine has 2 fatty acid molecules on a glycerol molecule and a phosphate group with a choline on it. And those are membrane proteins. The reason why membrane proteins are used is because they're conserved. They're not just junked out for energy by the body. That's what happens to triglycerides. The phosphatides, or phospholipids, they're called, they're conserved. They're not digested for energy. They're conserved and they're picked up by the membranes. What's important is, what are the fatty acids in the product you're getting? The phosphatidylcholine used to come from soybeans. Soybeans have some omega-3s and quite a bit of omega-6. And lecithin was a phosphatidylcholine product.
Yes.
And that was one of the rare sources of omega-3s before we started working with omega-3s. Okay. The better your membranes are built, the more essential fatty acids they have in the right ratio, the more the cell membranes work. And I think some of the issues that are addressed by that are the issues of when membranes are made from damaged fatty acids. Then you end up with damaged membranes made from damaged fatty acids. I think that's where the function is. But the phosphatidylcholine needs to be undamaged.
Yep.
And that's true in when soybean oil is made, that's taken out before the oil goes through all the chemical stuff.
Yeah.
And so the lecithin is probably in better shape molecularly than the oil is.
Yeah, there's like one company that I'm drawing a blank on the name right now that everybody recommends in that space.
Yeah.
Also, walk us back. You said you were going to give us a name of a fish oil at one point.
I know. I'll get to that in a second. I want to say one more thing, is that you need to make a distinction between food oil foundation and supplement in the area of fats. And why is that? Because fats are one of the 3 pillars of nutrition. These are major nutrients. And we're talking tablespoons. We're not talking little pills. Okay?
Yes.
So what Udo's oil is a food oil, foundation oil. And it's a substitute for the damaged oils that you buy in bottles everywhere on the shelf. Colorless, odorless, tasteless oils in plastic with pesticides and damaged by the processing. Okay, so this is a food oil. You don't want to use it for cooking because cooking will destroy the oil. What you want to do is you want to go back to cooking in water or not cooking at all, which is what nature's standard was for all the creatures that eat, fresh, whole, raw, organic, local. And you add the oil to the food after it comes off the heat. So that way you don't damage it. So we have use is also important. And then I have a statement, I call it my all, some, none statement. It goes like this. If you want to be healthy, all of you need your food oil foundation made with health in mind. Some of you might get further benefits by adding a supplement to that food oil foundation. The supplement is an add-on. It's not a substitute. A lot of people are saying fish oil or no. Flax oil is foundation. Fish oil is supplement. Okay. Udo's oil is foundation. The capsule oils are supplements. Okay. And then the third part is nobody can be healthy on supplement alone. It's not enough oil for human beings. We need more fat than any other creature because we have the least hair and the least protection, need the most heat, and omega-3s give us heat and keep us warm in winter, right? And they're northern and southern oils for at the poles where it gets cold. That's where the high omega-3 products are from. Mm-hmm. Now, to go back to your supplement oil that you want that is made with health in mind, krill is your choice. Krill oil. Why? Because krill oil is about 40% phospholipids, what we were just talking about, that are not burnt for energy, but conserved into your body and built into your membranes. The oil is low on the food chain, so it's the least contaminated. The way it's made is not the way the fish oils are made. It's made by being dissolved out of krill with alcohol, and the oil is not damaged for that reason. It has its own fabulous antioxidant called astaxanthin, which is a red pigment, which is why krill oil is red. And it's a sustainable industry because they figured out how much there is and how much they can harvest sustainably before they first pull them out. They never did that with the fish oil, and there is some pretty good evidence that by 2024, there will be no fish in the ocean because we've overfished for like probably 300 years, always gone from place to place, never set the limits. Now the fish that we catch are a third the size they used to be 100 years ago. So we're fishing babies, right? And our methods for harvesting are more efficient than they ever were. So we're doing everything in the direction of destroying an industry that at one point was a very good industry. And the fish oils, they used to have benefits, but then 20 years ago or so, they started processing them more for two reasons. One is to get rid of the nasty smell. And the second reason was to get rid of the PCBs and dioxins, which sometimes went up as high as 1,300 parts per billion. The researchers said there is no safe level of these super, super toxic molecules. The government said, well, you have to bring it down to 90 parts per billion. So now they have to bring it down to 90 parts per billion. That requires more processing. That does more damage to the oil. And now you find that in the oil, in the fish oil, there might be 300,000 to 400,000 times more processing damaged molecules than PCBs and dioxins and other industrial toxins. So at some point, the number of molecules you damaged, oil molecules you damaged, are going to hurt you more than the PCBs and dioxins.
Yeah.
And nobody's paying attention to that. And it's kind of like, well, it's, you see that everywhere now. People hide the facts. People hide the inconvenient truths, right? Unless somebody like Kennedy comes along and says, we're going to fix all this stuff. I don't know if he's going to or not, but I live in Canada. But is it a good idea to look at how much damage we're doing to ourselves and our health and our children and each other with all the toxic molecules that we've created that never exist in nature, that life never made a breakdown program for? yeah, you know what? If you think life is important and health is important, you have to address that stuff, right?
Yeah. You know, I do a really, since 2009,
Yeah.
I've done a strong foot forward effort I eat whole foods. I
Yeah.
eat clean protein.
Yeah.
It's rare I eat out at a restaurant, but I do. I have
Organic.
my places that try to use clean oils. And if I do eat outside of that, I can notice immediately
Yeah.
in my digestion. I'd be really interested to hear how you work with food to stay as healthy as you are. How young did you say you were?
82. I'll be
82.
83 in May.
You look fabulous and your vigor is incredible.
Ha!
So I would love to know what you do from a food and supplemental paradigm. And then anything, what are you doing physically these days to stay fit?
Oh, yeah. Okay. So start with the physical. I've never been a gym junkie. I've never wanted to have the biggest muscles in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to keep body and soul together. And you do that through exercise or activity, not through exercise, but through activity. I grew up on a farm, so I don't like the idea of just pumping weight and not accomplishing something other than building my muscles. That's just an attitude, right? But I do gardening work and some heavy work. I mean, I take trees down and do all stuff like that. And, dig out roots. I dug out a big bamboo root garden. It was like I had to completely dig out like maybe a foot and a half down, 30 feet for this huge patch. It took me all summer to do it in my spare time. I prune trees and I carry stuff. And so I do that. I walk quite a bit. I have a trampoline, a mini trampoline. I have some ankle weights and head weights. I dance. I like moving. It's like, so I'm active, but I'm not a junkie. And I do it by feel because when I'm not active for a while, I don't feel good. And I just follow the feeling, right? And then I'll take a day off. And sometimes, like last couple of summers, we've climbed in the mountains, and I'll go for a 12-kilometer hike up and down the mountains, and I don't do that every day, but so that's the exercise
Beautiful.
part. I carry my groceries home by hand,
Oh,
so
yeah.
there's all kinds of ways you can get exercise. Just to do the little bit less inconvenient stuff. I'm not jumping in the car all the time. And then in terms of food, that's changed over the years. When I was a kid, we were on a farm. We had no electricity. We got raw milk. We let it go sour, and we make butter from it. So that was all done by hand. It was off of organic farms, basically. It was like that was in the 50s, late 50s.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't eat much meat because we didn't have refrigeration. So my father had a quarter beef in a freezer in town. The town was 15 miles away. Once a week, he would drive into town, bring a hunk of meat home, so we'd have a piece of meat on the weekend. And the rest of the time, we ate, potatoes and bread and we had a huge vegetable garden. We had 118 acres of bushland, and there was a very big garden on it. We cleared all that by hand and by horse, no chainsaw, no trucks, no nothing. And my father thought that was character building. And we were in pretty good shape. When I went to university, I was a teenager. I wanted to live like everybody else. I drank coffee like everybody else. I could follow the coffee down my digestive tract because it was irritating. But I wouldn't give it up because, when you're a teenager, you want to belong, you want to fit in. And then when I started taking probiotics, it went away. Now I can drink coffee without any problem. And I ate the usual food that people ate, just like cafeteria foods at the university. When in the 60s, I once did a project where I ate only out of garbage cans, and I was able to stay on a fresh food, plant-based diet. And I didn't eat any rotten stuff. It's that, and my project was to prove how rich our garbage cans are, how much we throw away, how much we waste.
How long did you do that for?
A whole summer.
Unreal. Willpower.
Well, no, when you have an insight and you want to check out something, you want to know something
for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard. Willpower isn't hard. You have an insight. It's most of my changes I've made in my life come from insights. And it's kind of like, oh, well, that doesn't make sense. Well, what makes sense? Oh, that makes sense. Okay, let me try that. And how else would you know what happens if you don't try new things, different things? So I'm an experimenter, very much. I'm a science guy, I'll bang things together to see which one is stronger. Just stuff like I did that as a kid. And then over the past 20, 30 years, obviously making oils with health in mind was really good for me. I used to eat a lot of raw plant-based foods just because I could take a cabbage to work. I didn't have to package it. I didn't have to cook it. I didn't have to fancy it up. I just had it on my truck seat. And when I wanted to eat, I would eat a bite of cabbage. And I like cabbage. I like cabbage and I like broccoli and I like plants and we had this big garden. So I'm used to eating vegetables. I pretty much eat mostly plant-based, mostly raw now. And it's funny because people say, oh, raw food is hard to digest. I'm an O blood group. We're supposed to be the meat eaters. I do better on vegetables. And I'm not doing it from a philosophy. I'm doing it from paying attention to how my body feels. And how do you know how your body feels? Well, for me, that comes from taking time every day to sit still, to do nothing, to just shut up, get out of my head, bring my focus into the body space and feel what it feels like. And when you're good at doing that and you do that often, your body talks to you. Oh, you feel something. Oh, got a fart coming. Or whatever it is, your body's always talking to you, right?
It is, yeah.
Oh, I bent my knee a way that makes it a little sore. Oh, okay, well, pay attention to that. And I'm a huge proponent of that. I think of all the things that human beings need to do to survive this century, the single most important one is to take time, sit still, tune into what they are, and to discover how incredibly beautiful it is to be alive in human form. And in that human form, there's a peace that is centered there, but goes out to infinity. So everything, the whole universe is unfolding in a perfect peace. But your access to that perfect peace that is everywhere is actually through the core of your own being. And if you don't see peace everywhere, it's because you're not looking from the core. Peace is not looking. Peace only sees peace. Within that peace, there is an energy, we call it life. It is actually a fraction of solar energy. And that's filtered through space, then through the atmosphere, then into plants, then activates electrons that then bond to create molecules out of atoms. That energy is stored in those molecules. You eat those as food in your cells. Those bonds are broken. The energy is released. Now you call it life or life energy. But you're actually a solar energy gadget, right? When somebody says you are my sunshine, they're wrong about the my, but they're right about the sunshine.
You're sunshine.
Yeah, you are sunshine, right? And in fact, if I say to you, hey, Freddie, whose body is that? What would you say?
I'd say it's my body.
Yeah, it's my body. That's most people would say it's my body. But you know what you just said? You've just told me you're not the body. You've just told me the body is your property. The body is your possession. You own the body and you are the owner of the body. Well, who owns your body? Who are you as owner of the body? Life owns the body. And life is that solar energy fraction. And life, that energy, is omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent in your body. That's the definition of divine or God in your body, right? And that energy is also the master, the owner, the CEO, the benevolent dictator, the friend, right? And it weighs nothing and runs everything. And you, in your individual essence, are that energy, are that life. And its nature is a flow of unconditional, empowering love that runs everything in your body. So your essential self is actually unconditional love. Now, if 8 billion people sat down and discovered that there's peace everywhere, and within that peace, they are unconditional love, do you think there'd be a war in the Ukraine?
We'd solve a lot of the world's problems if we all did that exercise and meditation.
We'd solve them all. We'd solve them all. People would still live and die, but death is not a problem because you, as life, survive your death. Right? You can't destroy an energy that's formless to begin with. The only thing that is destroyed ever is something that has form. You get born, you're going to die, right?
Yeah.
But the energy is formless and indestructible. So of all the things to do, and from that place, when you're in that place, there's also inspiration there. There's also insight there. There's wisdom for living. If you want a leader, you want to follow a leader, why don't you follow the one inside of you that's leading your life, right? And every human being can follow the same leader. We don't need one in DC and we don't need one in Ottawa. There are things those guys can do, but the most important leader for every human being is the life within them, the master within them. And we need to get to know that master, and we will change the way humanity operates, right? So that's like, and that's why I say, there's a crack in everything. That's where the light shines out, because that we are light. We are light, and that light shines out as inspired purpose. And when I feel that peace and that love, I feel so cared for that the only thing left to do is to help, is to do what needs to be done, is to make the biggest splash for good that's possible to make in the time I have.
Beautiful.
Right? And then it's like, wow, oh yeah. So all of a sudden my life is simple. I don't need a bigger car. I don't need a bigger house. I don't need $1 million more dollars. I don't need more. I have more than I ever thought would be possible. It's built in. We came loaded with it. And then we went out into the world and lost connection to it. And then our heart started to ache. And then we wanted something else to fulfill us. And that's where we make all our mistakes. Because we expect, I got married and, I saw the goddess in the lady, right? Oh my God, there's my fulfillment, right? She saw the same thing in me. That's how the attraction happened, right? But the truth was, she couldn't get to what I saw in her. She herself couldn't get to it to bring it into the relationship. And I couldn't get to, in me, what she saw in me to bring it into the relationship. So, well, then where the hell is the love in the relationship supposed to come from if both people can't get to it within themselves? Bring it up. So then guess what happened? 6 years later, it ended. Very acrimoniously, very bad for the kids. Why? Because neither she or I had done our homework, because you need to do that homework, before you load yourself onto somebody else.
Yeah. Beautifully said.
and
Udo,
then expect them to carry your load.
and then expect them to carry a load. Udo, there's so much to unpack. We're at our hour.
Yeah.
Where do people go to find more about your work and your musings and the things you're putting out there to be of service in the world?
Yeah. Okay. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I have a YouTube channel. If you go on Google and write in Udo Erasmus, that's a funny enough name that I always show up on the first page. If you go Udo Erasmus /podcast, some of my podcasts up there are there. I have a website called udoerasmus.com. It's kind of a mess. We're creating now for my two next projects, which is total health based in nature and human nature as a teachable field. So we're just beginning to build that. It's still a mess. And, I'm active on Facebook more than any other place. I'm not hard to find. I have a book called Fats That Heal, Fats That Kill. There's quite a few copies of that around. And I'm writing a book now called Your Body Needs an Oil Change. And yeah, I'm not that hard to find.
Well, I can't wait. I'm definitely going to run to the store before I go to dinner tonight and grab a bottle so I could do my 30-day test.
What's the 30-day test? Oh, yeah, you mean in terms of working out to exhaustion?
I'm going to go for 30 days. So I'm 180 pounds. So what do I need? I need a tablespoon per 50 pounds of mass.
Yeah, three, four tablespoons.
3 or 4?
Depends on how warm it is. In winter, I use about 4 tablespoons a day.
Yeah.
In summer, I use 2 or 3. And that's because you burn more of it for heat in winter.
That's
in places where it gets cold. Well, you in Texas, you guys have it relatively easy, although sometimes it does get pretty cold, right? But where I am, it's cold in winter. And I used to be very cold sensitive. And that changed when I started taking omega-3s. I didn't know about omega-3s as a kid. Nobody's talking about it. And now I walk around in Vancouver. Doesn't get that cold in Vancouver, but it gets freezy. I walk around in a summer jacket. I never wear a winter jacket.
Yeah.
And
Same.
I'm 82.
I love it. Thank you for being a guest on the Beautifully Broken podcast. We could have 25 podcasts.
Well, dude, if you want to do more, let's do it.
We'll do more.
Yep.
We'll do more. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
There's so many beautiful, beautiful moments you shared with us, and I can't wait for everybody to hear this.
Thank you. And I love your energy because it makes a big difference to my delivery, your energy.
Thank you. Big love.
And thank you for being an amplifier for the message. If it has value, I hope a lot of people benefit.
That's what we're doing here.
Yeah, that's what it's about.
Namaste. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are with season 9 of the podcast. We're about to crest into year 6. Can you believe it? I'm so glad you're still here. And I just wanted to remind you, if you liked the show, please head over to Apple or Spotify and give us a 5-star review. It really expands the listenership. Now, there's one big way you can continue to learn and deepen the relationship that we started in this very episode. You can go to beautifully.broken.world and you can check out our brand new website and store. Listed are all the technologies, the supplements, the self-quantification, the products, everything that I love, I personally use, and I've curated for this audience. Most of the items have a significant discount just by using the link or our code, Beautifully Broken, all one word, and they do support the podcast through affiliations. Now, if you want to see the faces of our guests and you want to watch me unbox products and see reviews, you can go over to YouTube at Beautifully Broken World. Now, this next message is from my vast team of internet lawyers. The information on this podcast is for education. By listening, you agree not to use the information found here as medical advice to treat, diagnose, or cure any medical condition in yourself or others. Always consult your guiding physician for actual medical issues you may be having. Now, in my closing, we are truly in a paradigm shift. We need you at your very best. So use these conversations as a jumping off point for further exploration. Always listen to your own body. And remember, while life may be painful, how we put the pieces back together is a beautiful, beautiful process. I love you so much. I'm your host, Freddie Kimmel.